Hey everyone, sorry that I can't be with you in class today, but I think we'll be able to have a good discussion regardless. With the reading that you did in preparation for this class, and with the presentation that my group members have already given you, I hope you have a bit of an understanding of what an essential question is. In this group, we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about a tactic to test whether or not questions that you have formulated are actually essential questions, and we're going to talk about how that test applies to both elementary school and secondary ed. So, to begin with, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. If you haven't already, come up with three essential questions that you think would qualify as essential questions. They can be unit guiding and make sure that they're relevant to the class that you want to teach in the future. So right now, pause this video, set a timer for 3 minutes, and write those questions out. Feel free to talk to your group members and to brainstorm them as you can. Okay, perfect. Now you're back. You've written these 3 questions, or you've looked at them and kind of organized them in the essence of what you think an essential question is. Now, here's what we call the 8 to 80 test. This is something that you read about in one of the readings today, but I want to go a little bit more in depth with it, see how this applies to not only elementary school, but secondary ed and so on. So the 8 to 80 test is when you take a question and you hypothetically or actually pose it to an 8-year-old or someone in that age range, and then an 80-year-old or somebody in that age range. And then, as the book says, for good measure, you can pose it to somebody in between. This tactic is used and intentional to see if all of these age groups find the question that you have worth considering. If they do, you have an essential question. If they don't, you may want to revise it because it may be too narrow in its scope. So, for the next couple of minutes, I want you to sit and talk with your group about what makes an essential question based on this 8 to 80 test. Then we'll come back and I'll give you a couple of the things that I think. So do this for another 3 minutes and then we will come back. Awesome. So hopefully you've had a good discussion around what makes an essential question based off this 8 to 80 test. Maybe some of the things you thought of are simplicity, as well as complexity. Now let me describe that dichotomy a little bit. The simplicity means that this doesn't have a lot of words, that it's broad in topic and that it's easy to understand, that it has language that isn't so specific that it requires a certain age group or a certain learning level to understand. But complexity in the form that it can have many endless answers. Hence the 8 to 80. No matter what your question is, it should be relevant to those that you're talking with and to those that you're teaching. Thanks for being with me in this group, guys. We should be switching here in just a moment. So just as a recap, remember the 8 to 80 test is to test whether or not a question that you formulated is an essential question. It's meant to also transverse the age gap and be able to apply to elementary students, secondary ed students, college students, and lifelong learners.